Okay fellas, welcome to the fourth attempt at shooting this video. And yes, I tried to shoot this video 3 other times, but had problems each time. So hopefully the 4th time will be the charm. But of course this video is about the new 2022 Shimano Aldebaran going up against the 1 gram trout magnet. Now the rod I'm using, of course, is going to be my Queen Teton TTC 5'10", super ultra light, lure rating of 0.3 grams to 3 grams. I got 2-pound trout magnet mono, and I have this spool filled about halfway, which is way more than I normally would put when fishing a lure this light. But there was just a little bit of line left on the spool, and I wanted to use it all and not waste it. Now it's real windy today and overcast, so hopefully we actually can catch some fish. Now there's no trout in this little pond, but there are bass, crappie, bluegill, other panfish. But the good news is, since I attempted this video 3 times and 2 of those times were actual trout fishing, I learned a lot about this new reel, at least when casting a lure this light. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cast around and do some fishing, and we're going to talk about what I think of this reel so far. Now the setup is key for casting a lure this light, and what I mean by setup is the spool tension. Now I found that the best spool tension setting is just eliminating the side-to-side play and leaving it right there so that there is no side-to-side play on the reel at all. So it's kind of different from the DAIWA air reels where you want just a hair of side-to-side play. Now the problem is with Shimano's, I guess, O-ring style of silent tune, a lot of times dialing in that spool tension is kind of tough, because the O-rings will create this vacuum where the spool will not move no matter how loose or tight the spool tension is. So this is a plea to Shimano Japan. Please go back to the spring-loaded silent tune that you had in the 2016 METANIUM. There was no need to fix what wasn't broken. Alright, so I think I got my spool tension set, and I found that the best brake settings were between 5 and 4. All right, so I'm gonna wait until the water kind of gets calm so you guys can see where this lure is landing, and hopefully we'll get some fish. Okay, let us begin. All right, so right there I just did I guess about a 70% cast, a lot of wrist flick, and I'm getting an easy 30 to 35 feet, I would say. And accuracy is definitely much better than the 2016 model. Oh, had a bite right there. Now some things I've noticed with this reel versus the 2016 model is that this reel is super quiet, especially on the cast. Now with the 2016 model, that reel was not the quietest caster. In fact, it actually cast pretty loud. And I've always wondered what was causing that. I mean, it didn't affect performance, but my thoughts are that the bearings were probably just too small and it couldn't really cope with that spool speed. So we can see Shimano went with slightly bigger bearing with this new model. All right, hopefully you guys are seeing where this is landing. I think the fish are probably over there. Now I'm not putting full effort into these casts. Just kind of flicking it out there. But another thing that is better with the new model is that it is more refined and it's smoother. Turning the handle, it's almost as smooth as the CONQUEST BFS, but the effort it takes to turn the handle is a lot easier. So the internal tolerances are probably not quite as tight as the CONQUEST, but they're really, really close. All right, let's try to get some real distance on this now that the wind has kind of died down. So I'm probably getting right around 40 feet when I really put some effort into these casts. I think I can go down on the brakes. I was on 5 right there, so I'm gonna go down to almost 4.5. Let's see if we can eke out some more distance out of this. Of course, casting harder, the lure is going off to the left slightly. Yeah, but right there, I'm hitting probably well over 40 foot, probably at least 41, 42 feet. And I actually feel I can go down on the brakes just a hair. And that brings me to the next thing I want to talk about is this brake dial. Now, of course, I'm normally right-handed, so this is very awkward for me to palm. But I palm like this, and I can definitely feel that brake dial, even though so far it's not uncomfortable. Now here's the great thing about this brake dial being poked out as far as it is, as well as it being fully exposed. If you want to make a small adjustment, all you have to do is reach over with your thumb and turn it just like that. Now with the old reel, you have to kind of stop and take your pointer finger and move it and then, start fishing again. So it took a little bit of time to adjust the old reel. With this new one, for really small adjustments, you can just reach over and use your thumb. So that's a plus. Still looks ugly though, but that's a plus. Also, if you need to make a major adjustment, you can actually use 2 fingers, your thumb and your pointer finger, and turn it this way. And it's a lot easier than turning the brake dial of the old reel. Boom, that went out there well over 40 foot. You guys probably couldn't see it because of the chop on the water. Okay, so let's talk about the first time I tried to shoot this video. I went to a place that was close to my house. I couldn't go trout fishing the first time out, but during filming that video, the reel developed a mechanical problem. It started making a noise during the cast, almost like a rubbing noise. I thought I had a loose coil on the spool that was kind of hitting on the rod during the cast, but that wasn't it. And I could definitely feel a slight vibration during the cast, as well as the cast distances were getting shorter. So I cut the video short and I went home and I tried to take the spool out, and the spool was stuck in the frame. I could not pull it out. And I even used, oh, I got something. I even used, ooh, can you guys hear that? What is this, a crappie? Feels like a bass maybe. Oh, he's shaking his head. Okay, I'm gonna have to finesse this guy. This is 2-pound line. What is this? Might be a bass. I think I got the drag set just right. Oh. Oh, that's a big bass. That is a big bass. Please don't come off. These trout magnet hooks are super tiny. Okay. Gonna loosen the drag just a little. Definitely hear that drag clicker. That's like a 2-pound bass on 2-pound line. Please do not come off. The drag is super smooth. He is just taking off. Come on in, buddy. Oh, come on. I can't move him. Now granted, if I had, you know, heavier line, like 4 pound, I would still have to finesse him, but wow. This is why bait finesse is so fun. He has pulled out probably a good couple of feet of line. Oh, I know once he sees me, he's gonna take off. Oh crap. Now granted, this is 2 pound mono, but the Trout Magnet 2 pound probably is more like a 3 pound. Takes a lot to break this line. He is just running. Okay. Okay. I hope he gets tired. Man, I cannot gain on him. I cannot gain on this guy. Oh my God, he's big. Here he comes. He looked like a bass. It's definitely a bass. No, yep, it's a bass. I thought it was a crappie just from the view that he was giving me. Looks like a spot. Oh crap. Damn it. The damn hook came out. Hopefully you guys saw that. Oh, that is so disappointing. I was hoping to get that in. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. But the Trout Magnet catches everything. Well, I should say everything eats the Trout Magnet. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, the reel was making this sound. I could feel vibration. Cast distance was getting short. I took it home. I could not take the spool out, even with the cloth and some pliers. So I ended up taking the reel apart because I knew I had to, I guess, move that pinion. And it turns out that it wasn't the reel's fault, it was my fault, because when I took the spool pin out to weigh the spool in the unboxing video, I guess I didn't push it in all the way when I reinstalled the bearing and the pin, but somehow it worked itself loose and it got stuck to where I could not pull it out unless I disassembled the reel. So fortunately, I was able to fix it. But I'm going to show you guys a picture of the main gear. Now obviously you can see it's aluminum, you can see it's micro module, the really small teeth, but look at all the holes they drilled into the main gear just to save weight. But also look at the size of that main gear. It's freaking huge for a finesse reel. Now the reel, before I took it apart, was ridiculously smooth, very solid. Now unfortunately, it lost just a hair of smoothness once I put it back together, and I think it's because I removed some grease off the pinion trying to get that spool free. So if I end up giving this reel away, I'll probably take it apart and apply some light grease if I end up having to give the reel away. And speaking of which, I think I have over 1,000 likes, so I need you guys to share the unboxing video with everyone you can. And let's try to get that 2,000 likes that I need in order to give this reel away to one of you lucky subscribers. And you have until the right-handed models come out, which I think is at the end of April. But the reel losing some of its, I guess, factory smoothness and precision is one of the main reasons why I find it stupid to take a reel apart just to look at the insides when there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's not hard to do. Any chimpanzee could take a reel apart and put it together, especially since they give you the schematics. But I don't care who you are, especially with these Shimanos that have the micro module gears. You can take it apart and put it back together, but it's not going to be the same as when the factory puts it together. Now, I know you guys can't see where this lure is landing because of the chop on the water, but I guess with the aid of wind, man, we are getting well over 40 feet. Now, the second and the third time I took this reel out, I drove about, I would say, 80 miles one way to go to a trout fishing spot. And in fact, it was the same spot that I filmed the Alpha's Air. Oh, here's another fish. The Alpha's Air trout fishing video. And I actually caught a few trout, not a lot. Oh, that feels like another bass. Oh, he is just shaking his head. Oh, this is so fun. What is... Gotta keep that... What is this, a crappie or a bass? Alright, I don't want to lose this guy. Ooh, it's a crappie. It's a decent crappie. Oh, this guy didn't get away. Oh. All right, not quite slab status, but he put up a good fight. Man, he feels like he weighs a pound. He's fat. I think he's legal, but we're gonna let this guy go. Trout magnet, it catches everything. All right, so where was I? Oh yeah, I went fishing for trout, caught a couple of trout, had some awesome footage because of the lighting, but unfortunately, I guess the software in my GoPro 10 wasn't updated. So both days, the GoPro froze up and lost all the footage, including, you know, the couple of trout that I caught. And that pissed me off to no end, because that was some really good looking footage. And the fact that this place was so far from where I live, I think I probably spent about $70 just for gas, driving back and forth for 2 days. So I went home, I updated the GoPro. Oop, starting to get some overrun there. I think I need to turn the brakes up just a hair. And I'm using the GoPro right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this memory card and put another one in it just in case, because I definitely don't want to lose this footage. Okay, so let's talk about what all the Shimano and DAIWA fanboys are probably wanting to know. And that is, how does this new 2022 Aldebaran compare with the Alpha's Air TW when casting the 1 gram trout magnet? Now, compared to the 2016 model, I feel the new model does cast the trout magnet a little farther and definitely a lot easier. And what I mean by easier, casting straighter and not having to do any kind of adjustments to my cast stroke or release point to get it to go straight. Now, compared to the 2020 Alpha's Air, distance-wise, is very, very close. Now, I have not, oh, here's another one. I haven't fished them side by side with each other. And of course, that's going to be the best way to judge. So I'm just going to give you my opinion based on the memory of the last time I fished or casted the Alphas with the trout magnet. Now, when it comes to distance, once again, it's hard to tell. Maybe the Aldebaran has a couple of feet on the Alphas, but when it comes to ease of casting straight, this might trigger a lot of the Shimano fanboys. But I think the Alphas still has a slight edge on this reel when it comes to ease of casting this particular lure. But yeah, just from memory, I think the Alphas handles it just a little bit easier, a little bit more natural at casting such a light lure straight. But distance wise, and I don't even have the reel dialed down to its minimum brace setting right now, I think the Aldebaran probably is going to take it by at least a couple of feet. But of course, we're going to wait until I get my right-handed model, and we're going to have a trout magnet shootout between this reel and the Alphas. And I'm also planning to do a 1 gram shootout. Probably not with the trout magnet, but with some kind of a 1 gram weight between this reel, the Alphas, and the two Chinese reels, the Dark Wolf Ultra and the Black Knight 2. But all that's going to have to wait for two things. Number one, wait for my right-handed model to get in. Number two, wait for me to do my huge bait finesse Olympics, which I plan on doing as soon as I get my right-handed reel. And that's going to be tough because I count at least over 10 reels that I'm going to be including in that shootout. Now, I guess the next question is, how does this Aldebaran handle, I guess, regular BFS lures? I'm talking 1/16 of an ounce and up, maybe all the way up to 5 grams. And how does it compare with the old model? Because as I stated before, as you can see, looks like I'm the only one out here actually fishing a trout magnet with a bait caster and not doing it as some kind of a YouTube challenge. And that's going to be the next video with this new 2022 Aldebaran. Gonna have a little cast comparison with the old reel casting regular BFS lures. But yeah, I'm flicking this out here, at least 40 foot with just a flick of the wrist and a little bit of elbow. I am getting a little bit of aid with the wind, but I'm in the little pocket here that is shielded from a wind because of this tree behind me. But man, this reel is mighty impressive casting these ultralight lures. So it looks like Shimano has definitely hit their mark. And remember, they said that they're aiming for the DAIWA STEEZ Air with this new Aldebaran and the ability to easily cast down to 1 gram. And because they were aiming for the STEEZ Air, of course, by extension, the Alpha's Air, because I believe they both have the exact same spool weight, and of course the air brake rotor. Now let's talk about the brakes. They are, as to be expected, very potent, very powerful when in the higher settings, powerful enough to make your lure go off to the side when set on maximum. But as you can see, I'm on what, 4.75 on the brakes. I'm nowhere near 0 brakes. And I remember reading that the guy said that experts should be able to flick or flick cast 1 gram easily with this lure. I'm calling BS on that. I'll believe it when I see it. Now I'm talking about a true 1 gram lure, not a 1 gram jig head and a plastic. All right, so my GoPro is starting to give me issues again, so I guess this is going to be a good time to cut this video short. And yeah, verdict for the 2022 Aldebaran against the 1 gram trout magnet. It dominates it. All right, guys, thanks a lot.